Hello, everyone. So last year I predicted this, and unfortunately it came true. So last year in one of my videos, I mentioned that there would be breadtubers and breadtuber adjacent folk going after the Pendragon cycle. And oh boy, last week I was recommended a review for the Pendragon cycle, a lengthy one if I could remember. And I just clicked on it, just a few seconds, watched it, and scrolled through the comments. You could easily tell, okay, these guys are not here to give it a fair critique. These guys are here just to dunk on this show. And just moments ago, I was scrolling through my recommended page, and look what was recommended to me. A video by Dead Domain. And it's titled, I watched all of Daily Wire's awful Game of Thrones ripoff. Now, it's been a while since I've heard of Dead Domain. Now, a few years ago, I discovered her, and I think it was because of a Synthetic Man video. And Synthetic Man did respond to her. I think it was in a live stream or maybe in between a gaming review. But regardless, what was hilarious was years ago, the 2024 election live stream, he went on a chat and it just typed something and she spugged out. It was funny, okay? Wow. Okay, so I just want to say that, in the same video where I debunked all of these claims about the Pendragon cycle, I mentioned that these breadtubers are going to come after the show, and I debunked the claim that this is a Game of Thrones knockoff. The series started before any of the Game of Thrones books were ever released. So there you go. And, just because things look a certain way doesn't mean it is the same thing. And Jeremy Boring has stated that this is quite subversive in the fact that it's the anti-Game of Thrones. Yeah, it's not trying to be Game of Thrones. It's the opposite of that. It's subversive in the fact that it isn't a Game of Thrones show. It's not following the Game of Thrones meta. And, a lot of people these days may think a lot of fantasy shows have to follow Game of Thrones. I disagree with that. I think you can just not follow Game of Thrones, okay? Just like how, a lot of people were refusing to follow Tolkien's pathway. People now can just refuse to follow, the Game of Thrones meta. So anyways, yeah, obviously this is disappointing, but you know what's even more disappointing? The fact that you have a lot of channels with over 100K subscribers, or people with on various social media platforms with like over 100K followers altogether, and they aren't even talking about the Pendragon cycle, and you have this group, the mainstream right, they don't want to promote the show. Maybe once or twice they'll acknowledge it, or they have acknowledged it, but they just don't want to touch it. Okay? I remember last year there was this one Twitter account, and Kangman Lee said, something about the show. I can't remember what he said, but he was doubting the show, and then this one account said, hey, I've done all of these things, to basically, just like stay away from all of the woke stuff. Why can't you shout out this show? And I agreed with this person because he's right. You have a lot of these, these right-leaning influencers who have a lot of followers, but they don't want to promote something like this, which obviously deserves praise. It's one of the most ambitious projects coming from a right-leaning filmmaker. And that's the problem. You have those individuals who don't want to just at least give it a fair shot. And on the other hand, you also have individuals on the anti-SJW side who may not be interested in reviewing it. And it's like, oh, guys, come on. This show is definitely for you guys. At least Critical Drinker acknowledged it, so maybe you might do a full review now that all the episodes are out. Hopefully it does. But, when it comes to culture, you can't just create the culture, which Jeremy is doing. You can't just, publish a bunch of stuff, like regular non-woke entertainment. I'm not talking about anti-woke, I'm talking about non-woke stuff. You need to have a culture of celebration that follows, a culture that supports. And unfortunately, we aren't seeing that, you know? Like the Pendragon cycle successfully is something that isn't woke. It's not trying to be anti-woke. It's just trying to tell the story. But obviously, you know, it lacks a lot of like cultural support, and that's the problem. And you know, when it comes to trying to grow the culture, the mainstream right has to be more serious if they want things to change, you know. Anyway, sorry if I sounded so blunt. Oh my gosh, my voice, it really sucks. And the thing is that people will look at this video and just take this chick's opinion. Yeah, they would do that. Years ago, I used to watch people bashing Girl Defined, and I would just, you know, blindly follow them. And now I feel bad for doing that, okay? Because obviously, you know, there aren't a lot of people doing the opposite of defending Girl Defined. So, you know, you're gonna get a bunch of videos of people slamming them. And, you know, obviously, uh, a lot of people just fall into these type of videos and they'll just consume it and let those videos do their opinions for them, you know, just think for them all the time. Anyways, sorry, my voice is all over the place. Anyways, all I'm saying is I just want those channels with a lot of followers to at least give it a fair shot and promote more right-leaning artists. I've said this before in my culture war videos. Anyways, thanks so much for watching. Gosh, I have to edit this video. I'm so lazy. I'm so lazy. Anyways, bye-bye.